I turn around and there was a broomstick like sitting in her house. And I grabbed the broomstick and I pushed the broomstick all the way down in the water and it never hit bottom.
Welcome to Life of a Founder. Our goal here is to give you an inside look at the experiences of small business owners who have started, operated, and grown a business from the ground up. We strongly believe that there's no better way to learn than by listening to the stories of others. So whether you're already an entrepreneur or dreaming of becoming one in the future, we are sure you'll gain valuable insights from every episode. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the man behind the mic, our host, Matthew Sumter.
All right, welcome to Life of a Founder. I'm Matthew Sumter, and I'd like you to meet my guest today, Lance Pollard, the founder of iPlumbKC, amongst other businesses, I believe. Thanks for being here, Lance.
Matt, man, thank you so much for having me. It's been really cool listening to some of the other podcasts that you've done. The Flues Brothers and Monarch, and of course Chris with Keller Williams, and so it's been really encouraging to hear some of their challenges and victories also. So thanks for having me here.
Yeah, very cool. I'm glad to hear that you're a listener. Before we get into our conversation, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is thinking about starting their own business?
One piece of advice, yeah. So I think it'd be more of an encouragement that I think setting out with the mindset to overcome some of the challenges, because there will be things that are going to be unknown that come up. So just a couple years after we started, nobody plans to start a business and then go through a pandemic with employees, and that was something that nobody really had training for. So I would encouraging them, I think the simplest piece of advice would be just don't give up, keep pushing through. It will change and it will get better in time, I promise you.
All right, sounds good. I hear determination and grit a lot as I ask for what kind of characteristics people should have, and sounds like that's what you're talking about here.
A lot of grit, a lot of passion, all of those things.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about your business currently, what you do, and where you're at now.
Yeah, iPlumbKC, we started in 2018. It was just me in a van for the first about 16 or 18 months. The way we're structured now, actually about 70% of our revenue comes from our commercial division.
So you are a plumbing company, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, iPlumbKC, the trade, not the fruit. So yeah, we are a plumbing company. We primarily focus on construction and renovation construction projects. We don't do much of the door-to-door service, so to speak, the direct-to-consumer drain calls, emergency faucet leaking calls. So yeah, we about 70% of our revenue is from commercial projects, restaurants, tenant spaces, multifamily, and then on our residential side is new construction and high-end renovation. Okay. And it keeps us very, very busy.
All right. How old were you when you started? You said 2018, so about 6 years ago?
Yeah, 2018, I was 34 when we started the company, and just had a birthday a couple months ago, and I'm the big 40 now.
All right.
So, yeah.
Join in the rest of us.
Wisdom, all the wisdom people.
What inspired you to start on your own? I presume you were a plumber before working for someone else, and what gave you the idea to kind of start your own business?
Yeah, so I had been in the plumbing trade and the plumbing industry for about 18 years. Kind of had a career or an employer change. And it was during that time that my wife and I think just kind of started to reevaluate kind of what direction we wanted to go. At the time we had 4 kids, we now have 5. And so that's kind of what sparked this. I did take, 3 to 5 months off of plumbing just to kind of clear my head and make sure that this was a path that we wanted to go down. And if you want specifics of how the name and all that thing came about, I can do that.
Sure.
Yeah, so my wife and I literally were talking about kind of the direction of the family and what we wanted to do, and her and I were sitting on a couch in our basement. Kids were all in bed, and we just kind of needed a pick-me-up, just something positive and a path to follow. And she said, well, I'm going to get out a piece of paper. And she got literally our kids' crayons and a piece of construction paper. And she said, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm a plumber. Like, what do you mean what I do? What do I do? And she was asking me those questions because she just wanted me to start talking, to think of a potential name for a plumbing company. And she's like, no, what do you do every day? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I plumb. Like, what are you? And she literally wrote it down. She said, iPlumbKC. And oddly enough, I still have this paper. It's actually framed in our office. And it's the first logo done with crayons and construction paper. And it's just kind of that reminder that no matter where our path, or, you know, my path, my wife's path, our path takes us with this company, you know, how it began and why it began. And so it's kind of nostalgic, you know, to look back from time to time and go, wow, that feels like a really long time ago. I know it's only been 6 years, but so many good things have happened since then. So just a little inside information with the logo, I guess.
I was kind of wondering about that name. I thought you were going for the iPhone.
Yeah, so that
Apple product.
That's where it kind of came from. We didn't tell them that.
You haven't gotten sued yet, though.
Not yet, but there's still time. So
maybe they'll buy you.
Maybe so.
All right. Well, you started out by yourself in a van. Currently, where do you stand? How many employees do you have?
Yeah.
How many kind of crews, or what's the size of your company right
Yeah.
now looking like?
Yeah, so we, like I said, we started with just me in a van for the first about year and a half, and I jokingly told my wife, I said, you know, I know enough people. We're going to buy a used van, and I'll just go around town, we'll fix some water heaters and all that stuff, and we'll be all right. But what we found is when we provided that service to the customers, the phone kept ringing, and they wanted more of that service. So we started hiring. Right now, we kind of hover around that 24 employee mark, and that's, I guess, we made our first hire about 4.5 years ago. So it's been a busy 4.5 years, but man, I'm telling you, we've been able to add great people. I always say that it's like great people that also do plumbing, and that's one thing that we look for when we're going through the interview process. But yeah, just kind of around that 24 mark. Depending on markets and projects and all that stuff, but yeah, that's where we're hanging out at now.
Okay, and you are the founder. Are you the full owner, or do you have any kind of partners, or have you considered that?
Yeah, so I will say my wife and I are the founders.
Yeah.
But yeah, on paper, founder, owner, operator. No private money, no investors, no loans from the bank.
Okay.
We literally started this company with $5,000, a used van, and some tools.
And you've been able to cash flow that up till now?
Yeah, we have. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. Maybe he can help out the podcast, get all the stuff going. But I really am. My wife and I are big Dave Ramsey people, and so we thought, what better way to start the company than debt free? So that's how we operate. In the beginning, we didn't exist to banks. We had no history, and so we weren't able to get a small business loan. And I think that kind of helped catapult that mindset that, you know what, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, so to speak, with grit, passion, perseverance, all those things that you get up every day, you go to work, you do the right thing. And I promise you are working 7 days a week in the beginning, and you wish that there was an 8th day in the week just so you could get more done. But you don't give up, and you know that it's not always going to be like that. So,
well, along those lines of being constantly busy, have you ever had to outsource, or is there any kind of work that you outsource that maybe you don't want to handle yourself?
Yeah, in the beginning, and still some now, we will outsource a lot of our heavy utility work. That would be on the actual, I'll say, trade side of the business. In the beginning, we did all, payroll internally. And so now as our team has grown, thankfully, We outsource our, we've got our team, so to speak. We've got our CPA, we've got our financial advisors, our legal team, payroll company, and then we split the HR responsibilities with a company. So
Okay.
so yeah, thankfully we've had to outsource all those things. Yeah, in the beginning it's you're writing the checks, and then it's like someday you hope to be able not to have to do that.
Yeah.
And so we've been really thankful and blessed that.
So mainly more of the administrative type
Yeah.
services,
Yep.
things
And
that
yeah.
aren't your strengths necessarily.
Yeah,
so.
those are not my strengths. I understand them enough to be dangerous, but one of my mottos is let's let people do what they do, and they're professionals that do that for a living. They're very, very good at it. And so over the 6 years, we've been able to meet people and team up with people that has honestly helped us too.
Okay.
So.
Well, you as an owner, how hands-on are you personally now? What's your day-to-day look like? Are you out there doing the job still, or writing quotes? Or?
No, I'm not out doing the jobs. So my day-to-day is I am very hands-on. I am in the office every morning. And this would actually be up for debate with our office staff. So I'm going to say somewhere between the 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. mark is when we're in the office.
Wow.
There are times where I am still in the office at 6:30 and 7:30 in the evening. But as far as day to day, meeting new customers, meeting existing customers, stopping by the projects, chatting with our team members, a little bit of business development. I think that no matter how big any company gets, I think there's still multiple hats that have to be worn by certain people. But for me, I call it like ADHD, ownership, and it's I enjoy being involved in inventory control systems and job costing and relationships with customers and employees. So I think a little bit of everything, some variety is what my day consists of. Yeah, and thankfully I get to do that every day.
And have you found yourself having to force yourself to step away from some of those sorts of things? Or?
Yes, I have. We recently hired an operations manager, and she's absolutely fantastic. And I told her and other members of my team that I never want to be the reason why the company is being held up on something. So if I'm a little leery about something, or just because I don't understand something, I don't want that to be the reason that the company isn't moving forward.
Yeah.
And back to what I was saying, it's like, let people do what they do. If marketing falls on my shoulders, it's probably going to fail. If creating inventory systems and job costing systems and just the flow of information throughout the company, if that is completely on my shoulders, it might get done, but it's not going to get done when it needs to get done. So yeah, I've found that the more I release from my plate, which is very hard for me to do. I think it's probably hard for most owners or founders or managers to do. But when you trust the people around you and you understand that if given the opportunity, they could make this so much better, it's been really encouraging for me to see. So,
all right, very cool.
My theory is correct, I think, in that. So,
how do you best find that you acquire customers? You acted like you don't necessarily go for the kind of door-to-door jobs, so maybe you're not out putting flyers out, but how do you get your customers? Mostly word of mouth, or do you have other marketing channels that you use?
Yeah, and I've said this for years, that companies will grow by doing the right thing, right? And whether it's organic or through marketing, through social media, they'll grow by doing the right thing, right? They are good at what they do. As they continue to grow, I think certain things have to be in place to sustain that growth. So for us, thankfully, we've been able to grow organically, word of mouth. People see I like the logo. I'm going to call it a beautiful logo, but people see the logo driving around town. Social media, obviously, we enjoy the social media aspect and connections with our customers. And then oddly enough, man, it's like we are teamed up with I'd say about a dozen nonprofit organizations. And when we went into that, I mean, literally everything from counseling centers to, sports teams and BMX teams and Make-A-Wish and Peace Partnership, and there's all these organizations. And when it started out, my wife and I wanted to support those organizations just because we believed in what they were doing in their local communities. But what that's turned into now is we've been getting a lot of referrals from those since iPlumbKC, since you all are giving back to your community, we are so happy we found a company like that, a plumbing company like that, and we want to give you our business too. I guess all of that would be kind of organic growth. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'll mention, obviously your logo does stand out, I think. And I mean, you see a lot of just trucks driving around with either old peeling, 20-year-old logos, or just their name with some of the numbers missing, whatever. But yeah, yours definitely is one that I think that probably stands out and helps. It is a little more modern and
it is. Yeah, well, thank you. It's very expensive to have nice, clean trucks on the road. But if we're gonna be able to charge the prices we do, which are fair prices for the quality we deliver, we don't want somebody pulling up in a $1,500 30-year-old vehicle and then charging a good rate for a good job. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't sit well with me. So.
All right, cool. So what has been kind of a challenge that you faced while starting and growing your business?
Yeah. So there are a lot. One of them, as I mentioned earlier, was trying to get funding. I remember the conversations with the bank, and they said, well, we're not going to give you any money because you don't exist to us, right? iPlumbKC doesn't exist to us. And I remember asking the question, well, how is everybody else doing it?
Yeah.
And the banker, a great friend of mine, still to this day, she said, well, Lance, that's why 90% of small businesses fail. And I think the challenge, that obviously financial challenges in the beginning, but you look at the toll that it can take on your family, when dad or mom, but in my case, when dad is working 7 days a week, trying to provide for his family and trying to grow, it can take its toll on a family. As far as the business goes, trying to find people that are in your court, that are on your team, so who is our attorney? Who is the person that we're going to trust with our finances? What vendor would extend us a line of credit so we can afford to be able to do this first job? Yeah. And it's taken years to kind of find our people. And that was a challenge. And I go back to what I said earlier. As I'm listening to other, entrepreneurs or owners or upper level management from your podcast, it's actually been really encouraging to see that, whether it's customer acquisition, whether it's aging reports and you're waiting to get paid, whether it's financial struggles, if it's employee retention, all of those things are, thankfully, are not just in the plumbing industry, that they are industry-wide. And so it's been really encouraging to know that they've also been able to overcome that. Thankfully, we've been able to overcome that. So yeah, those are some of the, I'd say the main hurdles that we had to jump over.
Yeah. Obviously, it's got to be tough to go through some of that, and it seems like you've been working a lot of hours, at least through some of the time. So, have you already started to experience some burnout, and how do you handle that, like when you get overwhelmed?
So, true burnout, I interpret true burnout as just throwing in the towel, right? That's the way I interpret that. I've pulled a 42-hour shift with no sleep because the phone kept ringing. So maybe that's burnout. I would be lying if I said that every single day I wake up and I'm just giddy to go to work, and that everybody, and I'm just this ray of sunshine every day. to every single person I meet.
Yeah.
But to me, it really came down to when my wife and I made this decision that this is the path that we were going to go. The way I interpret passion is that it's overcoming intentional challenges every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wake up with the mindset, back to the burnout or stressed out or whatever, if you wake up with the mindset that no matter what's going to happen throughout the day, we have the ability to work through it or to overcome it, either as an individual or with a team, I think that's what helps me move forward every day.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about maybe some details as far as expenses in your industry. Kind of talk about the labor versus materials and kind of what a profit margin would look like in that industry.
Yeah, so kind of rule of thumb in plumbing, at least the construction side of plumbing, that I've figured out over now 24 years. I'm getting older. I started plumbing when I was 16 and I'm 40. It's kind of the 30-30-30-10 rule. So 30% labor, 30% raw material cost, 30% overhead operating expenses, vehicle breaks down. And in our industry, we shoot for a 10% net.
Okay.
I think some of the true service plumbing companies are probably, if I were guessing, pulling maybe a 12 to 18% net. But some of our expenses, labor is certainly a big one. We do have the monthly 6-figure payroll that's not fun.
Yeah.
But that's the
hard
reality.
check to write.
Yeah, it is. But that's the reality of where we are. The liability insurance, the health insurance, the payroll taxes, the workers' comp. But I would say the two biggest checks that we write every single month would be payroll and our materials. We are now moving good 7-figure materials every year. Yeah. So we buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
year over year, how have you seen your revenues either increase or decrease? And has it been a consistent exponential growth or a steady climb, or what's that look like?
Yeah, so I always said that in the beginning it was easy to grow, by 100% or double, right?
Yeah.
You go from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And then 2 to 4, that's a little easier. When you're going from 8 to 16 and 16 to 24, and that's where it becomes more challenging. But thankfully, we've been able to have double-digit growth every single year since our inception. Now, I think at some point that will slow down maybe a little bit, maybe in the 8 to 12. I know 12 is double digits, but it's not the 30, 40, 50% growth. So right now we're kind of on a path, a goal also, to be able to grow kind of in that 10 to 12% growth year over year. It's a healthy number. Yeah. It's sustainable. It's trackable. You can put a plan together for it, for projections, not really biting off more than you can chew. And that's where we are right now.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel like there's a number above that where you're going to struggle? It's going to get overwhelming. You're not going to be able to handle that kind of growth.
Yeah, if you're doing 5 million and you grow by 10%, that's doable. It's difficult, but it's doable. If you're doing 100 million, that number gets more and more, and the support staff that it takes to get to that number. So right now, I kind of feel like we're in a sweet spot where if we add 5 or 6 more vehicles on the road, we would certainly have to have more overhead staffing to support that number, whether it's project estimations, managing the crews, the clerical side, administrative assistants, things like that. And so we're kind of in that healthy spot where as we grow over the next year or two, we will absolutely have to create more internal office positions along with some of the field positions.
Yeah. Well, how would you measure success in your business beyond numbers? Maybe what is your day-to-day goal? What do you count as success?
For me, I'm always watching the numbers, right? That's one of my job duties. But I really, and I mean this, and I think if the people that know me, I think, would believe this, and I hope if you're listening today that you understand the passion, where the statement's coming from. But it's like I measure growth in morale of employees, customer relations. You know, are we having events? Are we having breakfast with the employees? Do we know the employees' lives where we can help out? Are they going through a difficult time? Did their son just graduate from high school? Do they have a swim competition that's coming up that we're asking? I mean, I really do, like, we pride ourselves on the relationships we have internally and then also with our customers. So success in my business, the way I view that is, are the team members happy? I mean, do they enjoy waking up and coming to work here at iPlumbKC? Would I work at iPlumbKC if I were not the owner? And asking myself those types of questions, you know, daily or weekly, or just keeping them top of mind, has helped me navigate through some of those, I guess, days where you might not really feel like being there, but when you show up and there's a team there and you're drinking coffee in the mornings and getting loaded up for the day, that family atmosphere is how I would measure success in my business.
Nice. And I imagine it's kind of difficult as you grow to maintain that as well. That would be another struggle to keep that family atmosphere.
Yeah, that goes back to employee retention, and keeping those things top of mind, I think, is about all you can do, and really practicing what you preach. That if I'm gonna ask our employees to communicate well with our customers or with internal customers, right, with each other, if I'm gonna ask them to do that, I should also be doing that, you know, and be that kind of light there in the room.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about grit, determination, that sort of thing. Are there any other skills or traits that you think are really essential for being a successful entrepreneur?
In my world, you know, I think sometimes people view the trades differently. You know, maybe looked down on. Sometimes it's, you know, just kind of a blue collar job, and you know. But I think, you know, as far as an entrepreneur or anybody in the trades, it does take grit. It does take character. That when we tell a customer that we're going to show up, we actually show up. Yeah. And it's been interesting to me how many calls we've received over the last 6 years that my plumber walked off the job and my friend said to call you. You don't walk off jobs. You know, communication skills, people, you know, you're always dealing with people. But for me, I mean, it reduced to the ridiculous, right? It's like, it really does come down to a few simple things. You know, do the right thing. Show up when you say you're going to show up, an honest day's work for an honest price. Those I guess simple values really, really will go a long way. Just being a person of your word.
You're starting to sound a little old-fashioned.
I am a little old-fashioned. I might have been born about 30 years too late, but here we are.
Seems to work for you.
Yeah, for now, yes.
How much of your success would you say is just luck or being at the right place at the right time versus hard work and what you've put into it?
You know, I've actually thought about this. I believe God has a path for everyone, right? And for me, it was, I believe that things happen for a reason. I don't know if you want to call that, you know, luck or divine intervention or hard work. Yeah. So man, I don't know. Like I really don't know. I think that I'll go back to those simple things where if I'm doing everything that I know how to do and I'm doing it to the best of my ability, I mean, in the simplest terms, if you wake up every day and you are consistent with what you do and you treat people right and you are fair to the people around you and you help the people around you, it's not my success, but it's like, can we all succeed? And I don't know if I would contribute that to luck or hard work or divine intervention or God's plan, but all of those things I think come together if you're on the path that you're supposed to be on.
All right, thank you. Can you think of any interesting or funny stories that have come up in any of your jobs, or does anything come to mind right now?
You're asking a plumber for a story. I have lots of stories, but I'll give you this one. You know, back to what I was saying earlier, it's, you know, you got to help the customer, and the customer's always right. And
of course.
And yeah, and that is true. And so we got a call, an elderly lady, broken English, and her drain was backed up. I'm like, ma'am, not a problem. Give me a couple hours. Let me pack up where I'm at. Kind of a non-emergency situation. And we'll get headed that way. And so we showed up, and I said, all right, ma'am, where's your basement, right? Like, where's your drain that's backed up? And so she led me around to the back of the house, and she pointed at this door. And I said, no, ma'am, where's your basement? And she's like, you know, point to the door. It might open the door and you'll see. And I opened the door to her basement, and there's water about 8 to 10 inches from the top, like the steps. Oh. And I closed the door, and I looked at her. I said, no, ma'am, where's your basement? And I mean, I'm holding up my hands like, you know, 8 foot tall basement. And now she's kind of getting a little upset. She's like, well, I just told you. And she points to the door again. And I turn around, and there was a broomstick like sitting in her house. And I grabbed the broomstick, and I pushed the broomstick all the way down in the water, and it never hit bottom. Her entire basement, 8 foot of her, 100% of her basement, her furnace, her water heater, everything was literally under sewage. We did not walk away from that job. We went and got a trash pump, and we called the company that comes in and makes things safe and clean and sanitizes everything. But we did get her drain open, and we got her operational. And I will never forget that situation ever. I don't think.
I was thinking maybe you put the scuba gear on and went down there and clean that out.
Yep. The smell was not pleasant at all.
Well, as of now, you're still a fairly young company as far as that's concerned, but what are your future plans? What are you thinking as far as either expansion, or even let's go down the road and think long-term and think about retirement, or where you might pass this on or sell, or what you might do?
Yeah, so I hope someday, I've got four sons and a daughter, and I hope that one of my 5 kids, maybe more, would want to take this on. I hope that they would, if they want, develop a passion for plumbing, which is few and far between. I don't think many people wake up every day and go, I want to be a plumber. Yeah. So that would be on the personal side. From a company standpoint, there are different ways to grow, right? You know, like you were saying earlier, you can grow financially, you can grow with processes laterally, internally. Not everything revolves around finances. And this is actually a great time to have this podcast. About a week and a half ago, we announced that we are starting another location in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so our office out there is about a month away from the renovations being complete. And oddly enough, it's going to be called, or it is called, iPlumbAZ.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah, so the goal would be to, I think, expand into some more markets. So you can have 200 employees in one market and have kind of a lion's share of a market. Or what if you had 10 different locations with 20 team members at each one of those locations? So we are finally, this has been in the works for the last 3 years, and we are really excited about moving into the Phoenix market and beyond in the future.
All right, very cool. Do you just foresee that as continuing to be things that you open and run, or have you thought about the franchising or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a business partner in the Arizona location, and this is, I'm not going to say it is just a test run, but we are using this the startup and getting the procedures and the operations, getting all those things in place and documenting everything, running data with everything that we're doing, so we can take those percentage-based data points and move them into different markets. So if the Phoenix market is, here's the amount of labor, or here's what you're paying an employee in this market, if that's percentage-based, you can take that into another market. So yeah, we have actually talked and are in communications with our legal team, and as we speak, they're literally drafting up the documentation to be able to franchise.
Okay.
Yeah, in other bigger markets.
All right.
Which is
cool.
really exciting. Maybe a little scary at times, but
Yeah.
we're just gonna go for it, man.
Yeah, see what happens. Well, I personally know that you've delved into a few other business type opportunities, but what are some of the other things that you either have pursued, some of the things I know that you've already done, or what are some things that you've thought about that you really haven't had the time to pursue?
Yeah. So we actually got into the bounce house business for about a year and a half. And if you are in the bounce house business currently, if you're listening, hats off to you. I figured if I can do the plumbing thing, how hard can bounce houses be? We closed that business about as fast as we opened it.
There you go.
My wife currently owns and operates a company, iRentKC. And we've got some properties around the KC metro area, long-term, short-term rental kind of things.
Residential,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all residential. Yeah, that, the iPlumbKC and iPlumbAZ. So yeah, we've kind of dipped into some things on the business side, and then if you want to get into the dipping my hands in the personal side, we can go there too, or it's all.
Well, personally, when you're not working on your business, if you have any of that time, what do you like to do for fun? What are kind of your hobbies?
Yeah, so we are big outdoors people, my wife and I. Hiking, fishing, taking the boys hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, all of the outdoors things. We're very hands-on. We've got some property east of Kansas City that you got goats and chickens and horses and ponds, and so we're a family that likes to spend a lot of time outdoors. We're very involved with our church and all the growth that they've seen. We enjoy doing that. And we're all volunteer. We're not on staff or anything. I've spent a number of years in the music industry. That's still kind of a hobby. Actually, this weekend I'm doing a fill-in for a corporate gig. And then I've actually got into, I'm going to call it part-time politics, which I don't think a lot of people would do with their free time, but I enjoy, I guess, trying to make a difference. So I serve on the Board of Education in my community. I'm one of the Missouri delegates, an MSBA delegate. So things that I get involved in, or my wife and I get involved in, we want to be able to make a difference in our community or church or in people's lives. And I think that's just kind of the common theme of what our lives, our day-to-day lives entail, whether it's the home, the church, the community, the workplace, all those things. We just want to make a difference, man.
Very nice. Do you have any mentors in your personal life and or business life?
Oh, absolutely.
Anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, I will. Actually, he was on, I think, 2 or 3 podcasts ago. Chris Austin has been a longtime friend, a longtime mentor. Actually was one of the main people in the beginning that encouraged my wife and I to take the step of self-employment, and him and his wife, Heather. I mean, some of the texts, I'm like, Chris, man, I need some fleet vehicles. What do I do? And he would help me navigate some of the situations or send me some contacts of people that he had worked with. But, I think, I interact with many, many people, but I can count on 2 hands the people in my life that I will go to for personal advice or business advice. And what I found that's interesting, it's like they aren't just people in the plumbing industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got friends in the transportation industry, banking industry, obviously real estate. And so I've tried to I don't pursue my friends just because they're in a different industry, but oddly enough, the people in my life that I trust and I look up to, and I will kind of model some decisions after, they just happen to be in just industries that are complete polar opposites from plumbing. And honestly, Matt, I really have been blessed with the people that have been placed in my life that have helped me along the way. Literally from our banker to, one of my best friends, Chris Austin, and his family over the years. Yeah, and so I'm just thankful that I have people in my life that can help me navigate through situations, or help make maybe give some advice on some difficult decisions, or the progression of the company, growth of the company, and just kind of give me a heads up of what maybe to expect, a year down the road.
Yeah, it's good to have your own little personal counsel around you.
It is, every day.
Most entrepreneurs that I talk to are reading or listening to something regularly, keeping up to date on business or industry or whatever. But is that something that do you do podcasts? Do you read any kind of industry materials or anything like that?
Yeah, so my team and I have started actually within the last month, Elevate Your Team, the 9-Figure Mindset, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what you find is that, a book, like those books won't change your life, but I think the things in those books, if you can duplicate that and mirror what they're saying, positive attitudes, teamwork, knowing that a group of people really can accomplish the impossible. Like I said, man, we started with $5,000 and a used van, and because of a mindset, because of teamwork and many, many hours of hard work and good decisions, but we've been able to, what I would call, do the impossible in a short amount of time. Most of the advice, personal advice or big business decisions, I won't typically take like the final decision advice from a book. I will gather some information, but then that's when I go to the people in my life that I trust. They've had successes, in their industries. And I will absolutely, 90% of the time, I will vet a lot of business decisions, financial decisions through or with other people in my life. So I think it's a mixture of both. And as far as a podcast, I listen to Life of a Founder podcast.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
As a child, do you feel like you exhibited any tendencies towards entrepreneurialism?
Entrepreneurial, dude, I can't even say that word. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Did you sell stuff?
Did I sell stuff? No, but I did buy some of Barnett comics. You remember that? Andy Barnett. Shout out to Andy.
That was actually a competitor to my grade school comic company. So
I might or might not have bought some of those comics then. No, so I was actually talking with my mom and my Aunt Pam not too long ago. I think it was around the holidays last year. And back to that, passion is overcoming challenges. But what I realized, it was like, I don't remember growing up, like, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like, I want to build this big business. Like, I honestly don't think that ever crossed my mind. But I think when I go back to what I said my passions were and what I do every day, it's like, I personally enjoy a challenge, right? So growing up, right? Is it a basketball game? Is it beating my brother, my cousin in 007, Nintendo 64? But it's like, I like to have a goal. I've always liked to have a goal, a to-do list, so to speak. I like to complete those things and then create a new one. And so when I was given the opportunity to make a goal of opening a plumbing company, making a goal of where we wanted that plumbing company to be, and then start achieving those goals, I think that kind of played right in line with other areas of my life. I wanted to put out a country CD, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then we put out another one. And so for me, I think it's goal setting and then people. I really do. I love being around people. I love meeting new people. And so when you put all those things together, it's like, you like to meet new people. I think I'm a good plumber person. I am a plumber. I'm a master plumber. I'm not just the guy that sits in the office and has never done it. I have done it. Done all aspects. Started in the warehouse when I was 16 years old and worked my way up. But when you put the pleasing people and enjoying meeting new people, then you put a skill, like my skill is plumbing, you put that with a goal. When you put all, 3 or 4 of those things together, that's when that can become something. And it was actually after we started the company, and I really didn't think about that. It was just kind of that natural, organic progression to owning your own business. And it was after I started and somebody came up to me and they're like, you've had the entrepreneurial mindset,
very good. Yeah.
but you didn't know it until you were in it. Yeah. And that was really encouraging for me to hear somebody that had known me most of my life, that I kind of lost contact with, that had told me that. And I was like, you know what, I've never really thought of it that way, but thank you, man, that really helped me.
Yeah,
so
very cool. Well, you've given us a lot of information about your personal life and about your side hobbies and all that. Is there any other unusual hobbies or collections or anything that you're keeping back?
Collections, no. My boys and I enjoy collecting sports cards. I do have a stamp and a rock collection, oddly enough. I collect Chiefs and Royals memorabilia.
Yeah.
And I guess something off the wall, I have always, and I'm serious, this is completely different, and there are literally a handful of people in my life that know this. I have always wanted to own a donut shop.
Yeah,
I am not kidding you.
Do you remember
John? You remember John Space Age Donuts?
It killed us when
yes.
that closed.
And I remember going there on Saturday mornings. My mom used to go there in college, and I'm like, how awesome is this? Like, you could have a business. People bring their money to you. You don't have to go chase it. Mm-hmm. Everybody's happy, right? You're getting a donut, and man, and actually a donut shop came up for sale about a year and a half ago, and we'll just say that one got shut down pretty quick. But you never know. One of these days, if we can start with a donut shop that starts with I, like I something, it probably would happen. So if anybody listening out there wants to comment, just give me some I something. I see what I'm saying. It can't be I bake. I donut. I donut hole. I have no idea.
If we can make it more of a midday to late evening donut shop,
okay,
but at the whole
24 hours,
the whole 2 a.m., 3 a.m. getting up to bake donuts.
That's the thing, dude. It's like, when do you work? Midnight to 9 a.m. That's the bad thing about having a donut shop.
Well, let's do a few rapid fire questions to finish up.
Oh boy, here we go.
First things that come to your mind: Mario or Luigi?
Mario.
I see. I had to get a plumber.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Describe your style in one word.
Oh, like style of what? Literally just style?
You can go with clothes. You can go with
style in one word.
Lifestyle. I don't know.
I'm just gonna go with outgoing.
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 Did you make your bed this morning?
No, I did not, because my wife was still in it when I left. Now, she might say something different, but I did not make my bed, no.
What is your favorite board game?
Oh, I guess this is rapid fire, so we're going to go with Monopoly.
All right. Would you or have you ever skydived?
I have never... No, I've never been. I don't want to go. I have zero desire.
All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. How can listeners learn more about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check us out online at iPlumbKC.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media sites, or you can call 833-PLUMKC.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot for being here, Lance.
Matt, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Life of a Founder. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And if you have any friends or family members who would enjoy the show, please share the link with them. We truly believe that small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities, so we encourage you to take that first step and start your journey toward business ownership.